Okay, guys, time for another very rare, very exclusive. I know I'm so special. Build video from me. Uh, Kind of just following what I was doing before, which is making beginner-friendly guides, like truly beginner-friendly, with gear that's acquired just through the core game, without even having to have any expansions. So this is my Ranger. I fell in love with Ranger. It's a class that I've actually played probably the least, besides maybe Engineer. But I also fell in love with the Ranger the fastest. I've never kind of liked a class more than Ranger as quickly as I have Ranger, if that makes sense. So kind of just to get started, again, I'm running the Celestial stats almost purely because when someone does like a character boost, they end up with this gear, and a lot of people ask like, oh, what are some cheap Celestial, etc. I mean, there's lots of people who make guides like that, but this one is my version and very beginner friendly. Okay, now obviously I have ascended everything just because I've been playing for so long, but the exotic versions of all this stuff works perfectly fine. It's just I have this, so I'm using it in this video. Okay, so let's just say you got the ascended gear from. Or not the ascended, the celestial gear from the boost, so to speak, or however it was. Okay, the rune we're running with is the Superior Rune of the Afflicted. It's like a 6 or 7 silver rune on the marketplace. Very affordable, very cheap, and it's perfect. This is a mostly condition-based build. Even though Celestial does have every stat, Celestial tends to work best with condition-based builds. So we're running conditions, we're running short bows, actually double short bows, and I'll show you why. But the Afflicted gives us condition damage, it gives us poison duration, it gives us bleeding duration, and it gives us both for condition duration. But condition duration applies to all conditions, so it's going to help stuff out like vulnerability, immobilize, cripple, things like that too. And this build is viable for PvP, like World vs. World, and for open world. Open world is kind of what I built it for, but if you can totally run this in World vs. World and kill people, I've done it a bunch of times. So Celestial gear, double short bow. The sigils that I'm running are for kind of maximizing damage. I'm currently doing a lot of testing, seeing what really does the most. Force and bursting is what a lot of people kind of assume does the most. I'm actually not convinced yet. I got to do more testing. I'm just running it right now for testing purposes, but there's a lot of sigils that'll work. A basic sigil like Sigil of Agony will push your bleeding duration up to 100. It's at 80 right now with the way that I currently have things set up. So that would push it to 100. There's things that apply bleeds on crits. There's things that apply other conditions on crits. You could do might on crit. You could do lifesteal on crit. There's a lot of weapon swapping sigils, so there's tons of sigils that'll work, all easily purchasable on the trading post, and then most of them not very expensive. So you can really play around with this kind of however you want. There's no really wrong answers. This is just kind of where I'm at right now. Okay, so gear out of the way. The trait lines. So I've gone with Wilderness Survival, Skirmishing, and Nature Magic. There's a couple of different things you could change. This is just where I'm at right now, similar to like with my sigils, etc. This is kind of where I've landed for now that I'm enjoying the most, just running around an open world, just doing basic Guild Wars 2 solo content. So, to start off, Natural Vigor from Wilderness Survival. You recover endurance more quickly. Great, means we dodge more. Dodging keeps us alive. It also has some synergies with other aspects of the build. First one here, gain increased vitality. Vitality is good. It's for you and your pet, so we're both a little bit tankier. And then you and your pet gain expertise based on vitality, which just means that our conditions last a little bit longer based off of our vitality. Since we have Celestial gear, we actually have decent vitality, so we're getting a decent amount of expertise as well. You and your pet gain protection when you dodge roll. Awesome. So already we're seeing a synergy in this trait line. You have more endurance, which means more dodges, which means you're going to get protection when you dodge roll. Protection is a great boon. It decreases the amount of damage you take. Next we have ambidextry, and this is kind of like up in the air here. Gain condition damage, gain additional condition damage while wielding a torch, dagger, or mace. Obviously, we're not using a torch, dagger, or mace, but you could. If you want to, instead of using double short bow, you could swap like dagger warhorn or dagger, some form of a dagger in your main hand and something else in your offhand. That would work. You'd get the extra 120 condition damage from this. So you'd get a 240 total if you're wielding a dagger. Because I'm not wielding a dagger, I only get 120. It's a noticeable DPS increase. Survival Instincts actually tests pretty close as well. So you could run this instead. Instead of gaining condition damage, you gain increased strike damage and reduced incoming strike damage. Makes us a little bit tankier. The damage is pretty close, kind of close, so you could run this instead. Empathic Bond, removing conditions when you swap pets. I don't think this is necessary because of other choices that I've made. But this could be taken if you find that you're needing more condition swaps, especially for like PvP or something like that. And then the third, this honestly, Wilderness Survival is just a great trait line. Its synergy with itself is very, very nice. You and your pet recover health while affected by protection. So more dodges, protection when you dodge, and you regen health when you're under protection. So when you have protection, you're going to be taking less damage, and then you're also going to be healing. So it just adds more effect and survivability to the class, making Ranger just kind of very tanky on its own. That's one of the first things that I learned when I started playing Ranger, was just how survivable, I should say, it is while still doing damage compared to other classes. Survival skills grant fury and remove conditions. I'm using this because I am using a lot of survival skills. If you wanted to swap around your skills, you would obviously not take this. You could use Poison Master, you could use Carnivore, but because I'm taking survival skills and I like the survival skills, I'm using Wilderness Knowledge to get the Condition Cleanse and the Fury uptime. Since we have Celestial Gear, which means we do have power and precision and ferocity already, Fury then becomes better for us. If it was a pure condition stats build, this wouldn't be as useful. But just take that in mind. So for the skirmishing trait line, you gain swiftness when swapping weapons in combat, which is one of the reasons why I've chosen to go with using the same weapon in both weapon slots. Double shortbow means that I'll swap whenever I need to, and I'll gain my swiftness. This trait alone in combat gives you a 100% uptime on swiftness. So you're going to have swiftness all the time alongside one of our shortbow abilities, which also has 100% uptime on swiftness. So swiftness is not a problem for us all the time, especially in combat. You and your pet have a chance to cause bleeding on critical hits. Again, because we're running Celestial Gear and we actually already have critical chance, plus the Fury from our Wilderness Knowledge, that means we have decent crit chance. It's like 60% or something with Fury up. So we're actually gaining something off of this trait. If I wasn't taking Celestial Gear and I was just taking Condi Gear or Power Gear or something else, I wouldn't take this. You could take Primal Reflexes, Vigor when you successfully evade. We have a lot of ways to evade in this build, so you would get more Vigor. But our Vigor uptime is already high, so I don't think this is super important anyway. Increase the duration of boons and conditions applied by traps. If you were running like the trap heal or maybe a couple of traps in here, this could be useful, but because of what I'm running, as I've stated before, I think Sharpened Edges adds a DPS increase that's pretty noticeable, and I'm running Sharpened Edges. Okay, gain Fury when swapping weapons in combat. This is almost 100% uptime on Combat Fury on its own. With the way that I have my stats set up, you could make this 100% if you change a couple of things in your gear. But with the way that I have it, it's 8 out of 9 seconds. But with Wilderness Knowledge giving us Fury when we use our survival skills, that's going to make me always have Fury uptime too. So we're always going to have Swiftness, we're always going to have Fury. Okay, moving on here. Bleeding you inflict is more dangerous. Again, because this is a condition build. Sharpened Edges, our short bow applies bleeding. There's other things that apply bleeding as well in here. Hidden Barbs giving us increased bleeding damage is kind of a no-brainer. The other ones are okay, but again, because we're a condition build focused on bleeds in general, Hidden Barbs for sure. You'll deal more damage and have an increased chance to critically strike when attacking from behind or the side or when striking a defiant foe. You'll see this theme here in the next trait as well, but basically the concept is the more you pay attention to your positioning, the more you're behind or to the side of your enemy, the more damage you're going to do. And then kind of the capstone here, Light on your feet does a lot, so I'm going to go over a few things here. Damage and condition duration are increased after dodging or using Quick Shot. Quick Shot is our third ability here on the bow. We're going to be using Quick Shot for sure all the time. Then also when you dodge, it works as well. So if I just use a Quick Shot, even with no enemy targeted, I'm going to gain the Swiftness, and I'm going to gain that Light on your feet buff. Same thing here. If I dodge, I'm going to gain this light on your feet buff. It's just a damage increase. In testing, depending on what boons are up, etc., or if you run it with a group, this can be a DPS increase or a decrease depending on if just auto attacking can sometimes actually be a higher DPS output than trying to upkeep the light on your feet damage buff. Just so you're aware, it's not like super necessary to upkeep this. It's kind of situational. But it could play into like a PvP burst window. You could do that. You could like dodge roll or, crippling shot to gain a little bit of extra burst damage if you're trying to take someone down. The other thing this trait does is it makes your shortbow just way better in general. Shortbow skills pierce. That means every single one of our attacks here pierce, which means it hits multiple targets if they're in a line. Where are we at here? Here we go. And their attacks from behind or while flanking or against defiant foes, again, the same as Hunter's Tactics, are improved. So let's just take a skill like Crippling Shot. Normally it says fire an arrow that cripples your target, but because of the fact that we took the light on your feet trait here, we also have if you are flanking or behind your target or your target is defiant, you immobilize them. Great. So you get the cripple and the immobilize if you're in that position or versus that kind of an enemy. Your pet's next 3 attacks inflict bleeding. Cool. Adds more bleeding to our arsenal. So same thing, all of your skills are increased when attacking from behind or from the side. So even just your auto attacks, your crossfire, it says attacks are stronger from behind or from the side. Okay? So moving on to the next trait line. I've taken Nature Magic just because it adds some noticeable survivability. When I'm soloing stuff, I like to have kind of a very survivable build. So starting off first, Beast Skills, which your Beast skill is your pet's activatable skill. Your pet will do things on its own, but the button you actually press relative to your pet is the Beast skill. So there's a lot of good free-to-play pets out there. I'll cover why I picked the 2 that I picked, but just give me 1 second, I'll get to that. So Beast skills grant regeneration around the ranger. This just adds healing to you. It's on a 20-second cooldown. Both of the beasts that I have picked, at least this one, I don't remember what's the cooldown on this? Yeah, this is 25. So the Mighty Roar from my, what's this little guy called? Jungle Stalker. The Mighty Roar from my Jungle Stalker is 20 seconds, so it perfectly lines up with the rejuvenation talent from Nature Magic. You just gain regeneration, okay? Wellspring. Grant regeneration to nearby allies when you use a healing skill, so more regeneration. You and your pet gain healing power based on power. We do have some decent power from Celestial. It's not amazing, but it's there. So we do gain some healing power from that as well. These other 2 are okay. This one is definitely good if there's like situationally, if you're trying to support or need revives, etc. Allies 8 is definitely good. And then Bountiful Hunter, you deal increased strike damage for each boon affecting you. We do have a lot of boons, so this could be okay. In testing, I mean, obviously it's more DPS than taking Wellspring, but it's not a massive boon or DPS increase. If I was running this particular build in like a group in like a fractal or something, if we already had decent healing in the party, I wouldn't take Wellspring. I would instead take Bountiful Hunter just for some DPS increase. When you gain a boon, it is shared with your pet. Cool, we don't pick this, it's just a passive. Awesome. It just gives us, our pet, all the boons we gain, like the protection, regen, swiftness, etc. Dodging removes a condition from you. Heal yourself if you remove a condition this way. This is one of my other reasons why I took Nature Magic is for this trait itself. It just gives us an extra way to get rid of pesky poisons or cripples, chills, whatever it is, that really kind of hinder your ability to solo or survive. The other ones are okay. If you're going to do like a more supportive version where you don't run maybe like double shortbow, maybe you have like a warhorn in your offhand, you could take Windborne Notes, granting more regeneration when you use a warhorn skill, etc. But I like Evasive Purity for sure. Lingering Magic, you and your pet gain increased concentration. Concentration is your boon duration, so your boons last longer. And then it says regeneration you apply is more effective. 240 is a big concentration number. I think they kind of changed a lot of classes traits to do the 240. But it's either way, it's a big number. It's a lot of concentration, so it definitely makes our boon duration more noticeably long. So the increased concentration and then the regeneration you apply, yeah, so increasing our regeneration's healing by 20%. We do have a little bit of healing power from, again, the celestial stats, so our healing power is actually pretty okay, and increasing our regeneration healing power is noticeable. So because of all the regeneration we have from the trait line itself, the regeneration and the amount that it ticks for is pretty noticeable, and it makes us more survivable for sure, especially with all the protection uptime that we have, which makes us take less damage, which means that the healing you do when you're taking less damage is actually more impactful as well. So there's some synergy there. Here, Invigorating Bond, beast skills heal allies around the ranger. It also gives you protection and vigor. So same 20-second cooldown, which means every time I pop this Mighty Roar, I'm gaining the might from the Mighty Roar itself. I'm getting healing from the Invigorating Bond trait here. I'm gaining protection and vigor. So vigor means more dodges, which plays into the Wilderness Survival trait line, giving us protection when we dodge roll and recovering health when we are affected by protection. So there's a lot of synergy and survivability with the Wilderness Survival trait and the Nature Magic trait. Okay, so that covers traits. I'll go into just kind of briefly why I've chosen to do so many survival skills. Obviously, because I've taken Wilderness Knowledge, that's one of the reasons. But the Troll Unguent, because I've taken Wellspring, Troll Unguent is great because instead of healing you in a burst, it heals you over time, which means that you don't lose effective healing during a battle if, say, you're at, a pretty decent health percentage. You don't really want to pop your heal because you don't need it, but you want to gain some of the benefits of pushing your heal, like, say, something like Wellspring. Well, pushing Troll Unguent heals you over time, so even if you're just missing a little bit of health right at that moment in time, it's very effective. You don't lose much healing because you're going to continue taking damage over the course of the battle, and it's going to keep regenerating you, and you still get to take advantage of a trait line like Wellspring. Plus, it being a survival skill, it interacts with the Wilderness Knowledge, which means it removes 2 conditions when you cast it and gives you Fury uptime. So it's just kind of a no-brainer, honestly. The other one that I would consider would be the We Heal as 1, which increases the duration of the boons that are on you. But because of the fact that we have so much uptime on the important boons anyway, I don't think this is super necessary. I just prefer Troll Unguent. I like the way that it plays and the fact that it's a survival skill. Okay, Quickening Zephyr, very, very, very good skill. Stun Break with no cast times are awesome in general. Plus, it being a survival skill, interacting with Wilderness Knowledge is great. So 20-second cooldown, pretty low cooldown. It's going to remove those conditions. It's going to give you that Fury. It's going to give you super speed. It's going to give you quickness. Very high uptime on quickness, by the way, about 50% uptime on quickness. Breaks your stuns. It's a great move. Lightning Reflexes. The reason why I take this is because there's not a lot of good ways to remove Immobilize specifically. If you're stacked with conditions and you can cleanse some of them, but maybe the Immobilize doesn't get cleansed for whatever reason, is in the queue or whatever, the Immobilize doesn't get prioritized and doesn't get cleansed, you can be screwed. So having a good guaranteed way to remove Immobilize can be really good for basically all builds, especially for PvP if you want to take this into like World versus World or something like that. Lightning Reflexes is awesome. It's a stun break. It's an evade frame, which means it interacts with things that like evade. It's going to give you the Fury and the condition removal from the Wilderness Knowledge. So in general, I just think this is another great kind of no-brainer skill. Quickening Zephyr and Lightning Reflexes are just awesome skills in general. This is the one that I would consider my flex. In open world, it's just kind of a DPS increase. Sharpening Stone gives you 10 stacks of a bleeding proc. So whenever you hit something, you're going to use one of those procs and apply another bleed. We're a bleeding type build. It kind of goes together. It's a survival skill, so it plays into Wilderness Knowledge, etc. It's going to remove those conditions, give you the Fury, etc. If I was going to swap any of my utility skills, it would be Sharpening Stone. It's not the most important. There's other great things you could take, but this is just what I like, what I use right now because I'm using open world, running this in an open world build. For the elite, again, Entangle is a survival skill. This lets us do another crowd control. It's a really good immobilize, decent bleed. Again, it's a survival skill, so it's going to remove those conditions and apply that fury. And it's a relatively short cooldown with 60 seconds. So I like this skill. It's thematic to my Sylvari Ranger as well. It's honestly part of why I took it. It's not a necessity whatsoever. Strength of the pack is a very good one. If you find that you need stability, if you're fighting, like if you're bossing and there's something that knocks you around a lot or something like that and you want to take strength of the pack, go for it. Also a great elite. I dislike Entangle for the fact that it's a survival skill and it's thematic for my character. All right, so that pretty much covers everything. The last thing I'll touch on is my pets. I really like the Juvenile Jungle Stalker. It's a pet you can get just in the base game. It's got a 20-second cooldown on its Beast ability, which synergizes with those traits we mentioned. I like the Might uptime. It says give Extreme Might, which is better than regular Might. Extreme Might. And it's 20-second cooldown, as I stated. The attacks of the Juvenile Jungle Stalker do decent damage, so that's kind of like my DPS pet. But there's a lot of good ones. This is just what I'm running with because, again, this is a beginner-friendly build. And then my swap would be the Pink Moa, because the Pink Moa does a pretty decent daze. It also has decent attacks, so if I need to break a blue bar, a Defiance bar, I will swap it to my Moa, try to break that bar, but in general, I will stick with my Juvenile Jungle Stalker for the Might. So now I'm just going to kind of showcase on this easy little hero challenge just kind of how the build functions and the amount of dodges and survivability that it has. This is an annoying one for some people, depending on which build you're running. People don't like this one. I should have done my Mighty Roar at the beginning, but I didn't. I've got 1,000,000 dodges, so dodges are no brainer here. I don't know why I got hit by that, but dodge again because I was an idiot and dodged already. So are you already seeing how forgiving this is? Easy break bar, keep it up quick or uptime on quickness. Dodge that, use my beast ability, etc. Keep my barbs up. Shock on this. He's gonna do the pull thing. I've got a dodge roll for that, or my stun break for that. Quickness uptime. Dodge this. You're always gonna have dodge rolls up. You're always gonna have CC. Use the troll unguent if you feel like your pet's taking damage. This is a pretty easy hero power, hero challenge, so it's not probably going to take any damage. I've got another. Oh, see, I should have. So right there, I had quick shot up. I had lightning reflexes up, so I could have dodged that easily if I was paying attention. I just wasn't. I was looking at skills. Dodge that, etc. So that's just a basic. I wasn't even paying attention, but I always was regenerating from my regeneration, my passive healing, dodging, etc. I've always got evades, I've always got dodges, I've got 1,000,000,000 stun breaks. The healing over time, I barely even touched my heal. My pet wasn't taking that much damage. Again, it's not a particularly challenging hero challenge. It's just something that people find annoying because of all the CC and stuff that the mushroom does. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. Just an easy little quick beginner friendly build there. I'll catch you guys on the next one.